we gonna have a good time and keep you in the know. Let all your trouble go. In the know, in the know, in the know. In the know, in the know, in the know. In the know, in the know, in the know.
Y'all, last week I was with the fam. Heart. Yay! So glad I learned this.
All of the expressions and
2 thumbs up, 2 thumbs up. Ah, that's okay. I got my girl with me. Oh my goodness, we're about to have a time today.
a time.
7 years later for me, 9 for you. How long is
Practicing?
No, since grad.
Oh,
You've been practicing for like 15 years, something like that.
dang,
Was it 9?
how long?
Because I graduated 2017.
Yeah.
You was a year before me, I think.
16.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, 7 years. Wow.
That's crazy.
And here we are.
And it's crazy. You have to sit and think about this. I'm like,
You
wow.
do.
Wow.
You do. And it's
That's
just
2016. That's when I finished.
And at the time I didn't know. I tell people often, I'm like, even though I was in school, I didn't know if I was going to really graduate.
Yeah.
It was such a long and strenuous journey. Mm-hmm. I thought it was going to be one of those things where it was like, okay, I tried, I did my best. It was it was an experience. Mm-hmm. Now we'll just, and it's like, no, when I passed that test and called you, I don't know if you remember, you were the first one I called.
It said
164, 160, whatever. You said, that's the number, girl. That's the number.
That's all you need. Close that paper and walk away.
Lord have mercy. That was
I remember telling you every day, this was going to go by so fast.
You did.
And this chapter will be in the rearview mirror.
In the rear. And here we are 7 years later.
Time waits for no one.
So you better do it.
You know.
And that's what I tell friends. I have a friend now, she's contemplating grad, or this is a program that's grad that leads to the doctoral program. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, number one, the years are going to come anyway, mm-hmm. Lord's will. So you can make a decision based on what your life is like right now. That's really what it comes down to. What level of commitment do you have? What is priority right now? What is your life what do you want your life to look like?
Because that's the thing. What do you want it to look like? Because everything is going to continue to happen regardless. There'll never really be a right time to do anything.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
So you got to just do it.
You got to just do it. I got this little halo going on this. Let's see. Hold on, y'all. I'm about to clean the screen. Hold on. I don't know what's going on. All right. Okay. I get all the feels right before. And then it clicks. Oh my goodness. Hello, Jacksonville, and wherever you are listening around the world. I'm Michellita Taylor, and I'm so glad to be back on this Saturday. Oh my goodness. Last Saturday, I had to celebrate the life of my incredible aunt, who is now in the arms of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. So it was a wonderful time of celebration with her. But I'm so glad to be here today on Saturday, September 14th. It's 84 degrees here in Jacksonville, Florida. We got a little overcast. We got a little break this morning with the rain, but you already know it's coming, Jacksonville, so be ready. Whatever plans you have, make sure you have that plan B to stay dry. But listen, we're going to start the show off today with a quick in the know fact, okay? So did you know that the national holiday today, get this, is Parents' Day Off? Did you know that? That it's National Parents' Day Off. Now, you tell me, when in the world does a parent get a day off? I don't know about you, but I think somebody came up with this as a grandiose idea to maybe pass the buck a little bit. What do you think? What do you think? Because if it truly was a National Parents' Day Off, what kind of city, state, and world would we be in right now? I thought that was really funny. The other one is National Live Creative Day. So that's a really great one for all of my creatives out there. If you're an artist, if you're a musician, if you're an actor, if you're a sculpturist, all those types of things. We recognize you on today for all of your creativity, and especially in the time that we live in now with social media and all of those who are creatives. We celebrate you and all that you're able to bring. But on this day today, I have, of course, an incredible guest live in the studio. And today we're actually going to open up the phone lines to let you call in with any questions that you may have that may be of benefit to you and to your family, and especially for your kids. So this guest, oh my goodness, I met her about 8 years ago while I was in grad school at Nova Southeastern University while getting my master's in speech language pathology, and I credit her to the success of me completing this program because it was not for the faint at heart. So Miss Calondra Henry is the CEO and founder of Broad Horizons Speech Therapy, as well as a practicing speech language pathologist with over 12 years of experience in the field. She founded the practice with a vision to create a space that embodies collaboration, compassion, and client-centered approach to therapy. Calondra is passionate about providing personalized care that helps individuals, especially children, reach their fullest potential in communication and language development. Under her leadership, Broad Horizons has grown into a respected clinic known for its high-quality service and commitment to the community. As a clinician, Calondra brings a wealth of knowledge and expertise to her practice, specializing in areas such as stuttering, school-age language disorders, executive functioning, and early childhood speech development. Her experience working in both public and private sectors has given her a broad perspective on speech and language therapy services, allowing her to craft tailored solutions that meet the diverse needs of her clients. Calondra's leadership and clinical excellence have been instrumental in the success and growth of Broad Horizons, making it a premier destination for speech, language, and occupational therapy. Wherever you are, snap it up, clap it up for my dear friend, Calondra Henry. Hey, girl.
Hey. Oh my goodness.
Did I do it right?
Oh, you did a phenomenal
Did I
job.
articulate? Was I clear, intelligible, all those wonderful things?
This is what happens when you get two speech language pathologists.
And I don't know about you, but I'm really I'm kind of slow to telling people what I do, because when I do mention to them that I am a speech therapist, they were like, don't judge my speech. Wait, don't be diagnosing me. I may split a verb or two, or I might stutter a little bit. So don't be judging me. And I'm like, that's not even on my mind.
Literally, that is the farthest thing from what we are thinking.
But I know that you as well, but when I do mention it, it is gratifying whenever a person, they mention, you know what, I had speech therapy.
Yes,
when I was a kid, or my child had to have speech therapy. And
there's always a family impact.
Yeah.
Every person you meet at some point in time, whether it's a family member who's had a stroke, their own child who has experienced it. I mean, it's just so profound and more than we expect.
It really is. And I mean, it's comforting too when I do talk to people about this phenomenon of sorts. I do remind them that, and you know, correct me with my percentages, but everyone has some type of language disorder, period. Not necessarily a diagnosis, but just naturally as human beings, we're doomed to err. So there are things within us cognitively that don't always click the way that they should. So that kind of gives us a bit of a reprieve to know that, okay, there isn't something wrong with me.
I'm not alone.
I'm not alone. I'm not alone, but whenever there is that need, it is helpful to know that there are professionals out there, such as yourself, that's able to kind of meet those needs and answer those questions. And especially now that school is in, like it's in now. Like people are settling in. I'm like my nieces, they start after Labor Day, so they've just been in school for about 2 weeks now. But I think it's safe to say that nationwide, all kids are in school.
Yes. I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that.
It should
now.
be, because
Yes.
it's September right now.
Right.
So knowing that, we know that our students are coming with a plethora of great opportunities for learning, great opportunities for expanding upon their knowledge base, and great opportunities for identification.
Yes, identification.
Yes.
That's so true.
Of different, differences and, even disorders. And so the reason I want to open the phone lines today is because, unfortunately, the knowledge accessibility, or maybe not accessibility, the wherewithal to find out information on how to better support our students and even adults when it comes to this is not easily found.
No.
And it is available, but to kind of know the ropes and what to say and what type of requests to make early, you're going to hear me say that a lot, early intervention. That way parents really have the support and tools necessary to really set their kids up for success.
Absolutely. And we only know what we know, and so that is a big part. Even myself, as being a clinician, having my own child in school now, and we recently went through the 504 process. And how many years have I sat doing that for other children, but doing it for my own child was a different experience.
So let's run it back. So we're going to be saying some numbers
Yes.
and some letters. And we want to make sure that our listeners are fully understanding what we're referring to. So I'm going to rewind just a little bit. Tell us where you're from.
Yes.
You got an amazing husband and a little one. Tell us about where you're from and what made you get into this field.
Okay. All right. So originally, I am from a small town in Baker County. That's where I grew up. And then my family, we moved to Jacksonville. So I graduated from Ed White High School in 2008.
Our rival.
Yeah. And then, my journey into speech language pathology, growing up, I always knew that I wanted to work with children. I can vividly imagine and remember always telling my parents that since I was little, like, I want to work with kids. I just have always had a heart for children since I was little. And originally I wanted to be a pediatrician. That was where I always saw myself as being a pediatrician. And then organic chemistry had other things to tell me when I got in college.
Ooh,
So
those courses make you change the course.
Yes, it humbled me very easily. And I remember calling my parents and just feeling defeated. And of course they were saying, you can do it, you can do it. But I told my mom, I said, I'm going to go and take one of those personality tests, and maybe it'll tell me a career that I'm meant to do, that still allows me to work in the health field, but I have the opportunity to work with children. And so I went and met with my counselor. I took one of those personality tests, and speech language pathology came back as a top career choice. And immediately I was like, wow, I didn't really know much about the field, My mom is a registered nurse, and so when I talked to her about it, she was like, oh, yes, of course. I work with speech therapists all the time in the hospital for swallowing when we have patients who've had a stroke. And I was like, huh, really? They work in hospitals? So at that moment, I went and I met the speech therapist that was working with her, shadowed with her, and I said, oh my gosh, this is incredible. Like, that was it. I was sold. I immediately changed my major.
Wow.
And it has just been growing, a love that has grown and sustained itself over time.
Incredible.
Yes,
Leaps and bounds. Leaps and bounds. And you're a mommy.
Yes, I am.
Of the math man.
Yes, the big math man.
The big math.
The big
how old is he
math.
now?
6.
6 years old. First grade?
First grade.
Oh my gosh. The time, it's not fair.
Yeah.
It's
No,
not fair.
No.
Man. And you went to what college?
I went to the University of Central Florida for my bachelor's.
Yeah,
and then for master's, Nova Southeastern University.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Yes, that's where I met my sister right here. And like I said, if it wasn't for her, I don't think, like we were talking off air, I don't know if I really thought I was going to finish the program. It was such a tumultuous program. And to go through it alone, the way our program was set up, we literally were, on our own. But God sent her to me, and she told me this was going to be a memory. And 7 years later, here we are talking about this on the radio, right? Which is so incredible. I love it. I love it. So when we're talking about speech language pathology and we're talking about education, again, I said before, early intervention is going to be one of those things that we really want to take advantage of. So what are some early signs that parents can look for when identifying potential speech and or language deficits or disorder in their children?
Yeah, so believe it or not, communication starts very early. So when we think about early development, when our children are born and we're interacting with babies and they're babbling and, they're turning their heads and they're smiling, all of those things are early pre-linguistic skills. And they're things that are needed in order for language to continue to grow and develop. And so oftentimes the perception is if my child is not speaking, they're not really grasping these concepts. Right. But we know that these things you have to have them in order for communication to happen. Like, we can tell early on if our baby has variations in their cry. Mommies, we know. Yes. We know when our baby's hungry.
The hungry cry, the wet cry, the frustrated cry. Yeah.
And so those are forms of communication. And a lot of times when I do have conversations with parents and they really start to think back to those times and how that looked for them, they can pick out times like, wow, I didn't realize at that time that I was engaging in communication or that my child was having a difficult time. Yeah. But the earliest thing I think for parents is when the children start talking, the mama, the dada, ball, and those early words. And when they don't hear them or they heard them and they go away, that's when the concern starts, because now I'm immersed with other children. My child is talking with other kids. Maybe they're going to daycare and they see other children their age who are talking more, expressing more, and they start to get concerned, because I tell parents all the time, every child, no matter their circumstance, is born to communicate. Yes. They have a need and want to communicate. And it can be so frustrating if they feel like they cannot do that. Right.
And to not take for granted the way they're communicating at that time, just as long as there's some type of exchange when that's happening with the child. Because again, as parents, we fall into that pit, and my baby's 3, but still that comparison, well, they're doing this and they're doing this, well, they're doing this here, and it doesn't mean that it's a red flag right now. Maybe, kind of be looking out for it, which, those milestone charts. Yeah. Because sometimes parents don't know, well, what should I look at to gauge if my child is on track?
Right. And the milestones are really important, because that kind of goes into how we know the difference between a delay and a disorder. At times when you are comparing your children to those milestones, we have to keep in mind that's the average age that children are doing a certain skill, but it does not mean that they must do the skill at that specific age.
That's key.
Because there's a window for growth and opportunity opportunity. And some children are going to do it right on time. Some are going to do it earlier. And we see that a lot with other milestones, whether it's children walking, you know, children walk at different ages.
Potty training.
Oh. Let's not get on that soapbox.
We won't.
But we see that happen so often, and it's, you know, something that I really encourage parents to know, that you can't just look at a checklist and think that your child is going to do every single thing at that time.
Right.
Now, by the time they're in second grade, and let's say they're not saying mama and dad, then that's what we call a disorder, because we have gone a significant amount of time where language has tripled in size.
Yes.
And we really need to have these skills set in stone to bridge us into later in life.
Right.
Academics, you know, social life, all of these things are so important.
Yeah. And to know that is powerful in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
That's, I think, the thing, is having that level of awareness, having that connection, communicating intentionally with your child, a normal type of thing. Because sometimes we do, you know, we make it a happenstance, and we do a lot more talking for them.
Yep.
Until they're being made to talk, and
Right.
there's not as much coming out, or it's coming out a little bit unintelligible, not very clear. And then you start to think, whoa, wait a minute. I've not placed that demand on them,
Right.
or even let them know that this is something that they're allowed to do and welcome to do. That's something I used to come in contact with families. I said, well, are they the baby of the family? Because sometimes the hierarchy will kind of give us an indication of them not knowing that they should, or the parent or the sibling getting out of the way to allow the child to communicate.
Right, exactly. That's,
you know?
That's really true.
So while the kids are now in school, how can parents collaborate with teachers to kind of voice some of their concerns that they may have? They may be the parent that have been using those milestones. They do kind of start to see that there are some concerns that they have. So what are some ways that a parent can partner with that teacher to kind of keep an eye out for that?
Yeah, so that's a very, very important thing, is to have open communication with your child's educators, whether it's their therapists, you know, their teachers. But having that open line of communication creates a positive environment for you to really share what you're seeing at home. And so with being a mom, you know, I know that there's some things I may see at home that my child may or may not do at school. And when the homework comes home, I'm like, wait a minute, I know you know how to do this.
Yes.
So that's why we must articulate when we see that things are going wrong. And you do that. I know now that there's a lot of communication, text apps and things like that, but let's not take out the face-to-face, you know.
We're going to have to do another show on that.
Yes.
Because that whole communication phenomenon, it is, oh my goodness.
But I always encourage parents, like, schedule a conference with the teacher, meet with the teacher, find out what the expectations are in the classroom, make sure that you have a clear understanding. What are the rules? What happens when they don't follow the rules? How can I encourage something at home if I'm not truly aware of what my child is exposed to all day? Because, you know, a child only has a threshold of so much information.
Right.
So by the time they come home and you ask them, what did you do today? Oh, I had fun.
Yes.
And that's the summary. And so they may miss out a lot of important details. So it is very important for you to know what's going on in the classroom, talking to the teacher, finding out if you see that your child has gotten a certain score in something, really finding out, well, what's going on? Like,
what is going on in the room?
In the room.
What is going on in that room? And that's why parent interaction is so vital. I mean, we're going to talk about IEPs and 504s and parent conferences a little bit later, but it is critical that parents stay so engaged into what's happening in those rooms at the school. And so we're going to take a quick break, and Calondra actually told me a couple of her favorite songs. And one of them is In the Room.
In the room. We're in the room.
We are in the room.
Always in the room.
Yes, I love this song. So In the Room by Tasha Cobbs. I didn't know you liked this song. I'm so tired of this song, girl. I'm always singing. I know, my goodness. Hey, Tam. Man, that time go by so quick. It's already 1:19. It's like...
I know, especially this talking.
is, but girl, that's why I was like,
I'm sorry.
no, it's what we do. Because this type of conversation, it's couple about. This is a podcast series because parents and even educators, I know you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's taking me back to the school and the classroom where it's like breaking it down to the
with your
teachers, educating them on what we do because they take for granted what we do. And it's like when they hear, they're like, oh, I was like, yeah, that's why I need you to let them come to me. It's time for them to have their services.
They need to come. They got to be present.
Yes, because I would have teachers are like, well, they studying for a test right now. Oh, well, they got to do this. I'm like, okay, but you do realize I'm helping them to
these skills they must master in order to do these things.
I ran into that so much last year, and I just
fun time. But that's the thing that they miss. Like children need to do those things in order to develop those skills. That's how they learn how to deal with hardships.
Absolutely.
When I lose a game, how do I deal with that? You know, we saw that so much in the schools with kids, like how they would struggle with things like that because they just don't do it.
And again, teachers don't realize that that's under our umbrella. Those pragmatic skills, those social skills, those self-regulating skills. They just think they need a consequence. They don't get resourced. They don't, and it's like no, there's something more happening where they don't know how to kind of de-escalate. How regulate,
skills. So it's a hierarchy.
It is, man. It is.
It's like a little pyramid. It's
my
gosh. Building on top of each other. But
so what I'll go into next is talking about what is early intervention.
Okay.
We'll talk about what is early intervention, and then when early intervention happens, it can look like this, and then what it looks like for a teacher or a parent or a clinician.
Do you want me to talk about like the program since I've worked with like early steps, child find, and talk about the differences
I want to be
the two.
This second half is much resource based as possible.
Okay, great.
So people listening can be like, yes, I can check out early steps, early whatever.
Yeah, and I can explain because like early steps is the first, and then it goes into child find and the ages, and so I've done both, so I can talk about both of them.
Yeah, and then maybe we can kind of hit on some red flags or, well, I don't want to open up that can because red flags can become gray flags. And I definitely don't want to diminish what a parent may see. Like, oh, well, the people said on the radio, we don't have to. No. We need you to call, go to the pediatrician, get the testing, get the scoring.
I think it definitely, the biggest thing I always tell parents, if, you know, by the time they're 1.5, if they don't have at least 50 words or somewhere close to that, like, you need to be concerned. Like, you need to be concerned. And that's a good one. And definitely the hearing, because that has been something this year alone. I've had maybe a set of 3 parents that have come to me, and I'm like, no, let's check the hearing.
Yeah.
Every single one of them are lined up to get ear tubes placed, and parents would have never known.
Commercial. And that was In the Room by Tasha Cobbs. The In the Know radio show is sponsored by Mixed Theory Studios. Unlock the power of your voice and capture your sound in just 2 hours. I'm Michellita Taylor, speech language pathologist and vocal coach, and as an expert, I will provide personalized training tailored to your unique voice and sound. Mastering techniques to improve your diction, tone, and delivery for commercials, reels, ads, and business is what you can expect. In just 2 hours, receive professional voice coaching and leave with a polished voiceover demo to start your journey as a voiceover artist at Mixed Theory Studios. For more information, give us a call at 904-990-6240. All right, and we are back with Miss Calondra Henry. She is a speech language pathologist and the CEO and founder of Broad Horizons Speech Therapy. And we were just talking about the importance of early intervention. During the break, we really wanted to make sure that we were resource heavy. We want our listening audience to have some tools and some next steps in mind that they can utilize if in fact you fall in the category of concern for your child or your niece or your grandchild. I run into that all the time. My baby needs speech. My baby needs this. Do you know, and it's like they may or may not needed, number one. And then number two, these are the different places that you need to call. These are the people that you need to consult. So let's talk about, what does early intervention look like?
Yeah, so early intervention are those skills that really start, from infancy on up until the toddler stages. And so we know by research that the first 3 years of life are very important. And research shows that if we intervene early, the likelihood of closing those gaps and really working and refining those skills, we can significantly impact the child's overall trajectory. And so that's what we're aiming to do with early intervention, and making sure that parents are well equipped during those years to know. And just like you mentioned, it may be a family member, and also knowing at early intervention, there's no harm in ever getting screening or evaluation done.
Don't be afraid. I think that's a lot of, I've come in contact friends. Hey, I need to talk to you.
Right.
And I already know where it's going. Yeah, well, I noticed they're doing this, and her friend is doing this, and immediately there's just this anxiousness that you can kind of hear in the voice. And for me, it's like, be at ease and applaud yourself for the concern.
The concern.
That means you're fully engaging, that you're being aware of what your child is doing. And, it's okay to glean. But again, each child is different, so we don't use them as the standard. But it does give you that, like, okay, I'm just kind of checking in.
Right. And so we think about that all the time. Like, we have our routine visits that we go to the doctor to see how things are going, our wellness checks. And so we have to think about that in other areas and aspects of our lives as well. And because communication is so important, it grows into so many different areas, that's why early intervention is important. So there are state-funded programs that are specifically driven to help with these specific things. And so one of the things that I want to make sure that parents are aware of, and any of the other listeners out there who may have concerns, the first state-funded program is called Early Steps. So Early Steps is a program that ages from infancy until the child turns 3. When you're looking at that, you can be a self-referral, which means that you, the parent, can bring up the concerns, and you can call Early Steps.
You don't have to have a doctor's referral. It's simply you.
You can talk to your pediatrician about it, and they can write a referral. We know sometimes with referrals things do move faster, but just knowing that you don't have to wait on that to have any areas of concern. And so then that allows the early intervention team to get with you. They interview the parent, ask you questions before you really get to the evaluation portion. And then there will be several areas that they're looking at, whether it's adaptive skills, independent functioning, also communication. There are different aspects that they're going to look at to see how your child is developing in those different aspects. And then the program that comes after that, once the child turns 3, is a process that most people are familiar with, is called Child Find. And so Child Find's purpose is to find children who are struggling with these skills prior to them entering the education system. So this early intervention has really helped to close the gaps that are going to happen and reduce the skills that a child will come in prepared for kindergarten. And so these specific programs, depending upon where the child aims, and this will go from age 3 to 6 years of age, or when the child enters kindergarten, whichever happens first, because we know we have some children, because of their birthdays,
are a little bit late.
Right. And so that program is geared for them, and then they will move into an IEP to where services are covered educationally to help them close those gaps. And it might just be communication. In some cases, it can be a developmental program where your child attends school all day and they receive other services like occupational therapy, physical therapy, helping them with toileting skills, all different types of things. But these resources are there. They are state
They're available. They're out there. So we have Early Steps.
Yes.
Then Child Find.
Child Find.
And then when we get into the schools, we'll get into the IEPs. So we know IEP is an individualized education plan. And then we have the 504.
Yes.
So some may be more familiar with the IEP, but the 504. So let's talk about that.
Yes.
Just the differences, actually, IEP and 504.
Yeah, the major difference I always tell parents is that a 504 can come into place if a child has a medical diagnosis and they need accommodations in the classroom that will help them with accessing the curriculum. So it doesn't provide any, changes to the curriculum. They're still doing the standard academic curriculum. However, it allows for certain accommodations that will help them make sure that they are in the least restrictive environment, helping them learn and engage. Now, when we look at the IEP, the difference in that is that it's geared towards, number one, individualized.
Yes.
Because it's going to look at all of the areas that your child may have weaknesses in. And so then you're able to get educational support, which adds in different levels and goals and objectives that must be met and reviewed annually. So when you have a 504, you have the accommodations, but there are no specific goals and objectives being addressed.
Kind of hard to measure if they're being successful, if there's any type of growth.
Exactly. And so we know that some kids, they just need those accommodations to make sure certain things are happening in order for them to go about their education.
That's so good. And it's, again, it's helpful because we run into these situations all the time where a parent, they see that there is something that's wrong, and then they get a little bit distracted, and then weeks and months, and then a year goes by, and then they switch schools, and then there's all these different delays, and then the child continues to become more and more regressed in their abilities. So to kind of know a sequence of what type of services, what type of plans, and then I want to get into what type of question, because I'll say this, I'll talk to some parents and they'll get a lot of pushback from the teachers or from guidance or, just depending upon what school or county they're in. And they feel like their child really, really, really needs this IEP. He needs this service. He needs this plan. But data or assessments are saying otherwise. So what should a parent do in that case, number one? And then number two, if they just really feel like their child isn't progressing the way, and a lot of it is personal because we do have those milestones, we have those benchmarks. What are some things they can do to better support their child in their communicative way so they can see the growth that they would like to see? Because some of it is, again, is not that they really need it based on age appropriateness. It's just that way, it's something that they see, but I just feel like they should be better. I feel like they should be more clear. I feel like they should know more words. I feel like they're behind and they can do more.
And so this just really leads into the difference in talking about educational services and private therapy, because the school is really held to specific standards that have been set forth by the state. And with those requirements, there are pieces that have to be in play in order to make sure that a child is performing at a level. So we know that there can be certain expectations that parents have, and there are things that, yes, your child may not be performing at the top tier level of your expectations.
You're not be a genius.
But
their needs are being met.
Exactly.
They can communicate what they want.
Exactly. And I have that conversation with parents often, is that the school is held to regulations that they must follow. And in order to determine if a child has a disability, they have to prove that the child has a disability.
We're going to stick a pin in that just for a second, because that word is so huge. And I think a lot of times parents forget when they're getting that IEP or that 504, they are being labeled disabled. Now, it's not a life sentence, and we'll talk about that. But because of that, the weightiness of that term, it does kind of put that into perspective as to why, no, we're just throwing out IEPs and 504, you get one, you get one, you get one, because there's accountability that comes with that.
Right. And especially now, there's so much different approaches now, and about neurodiverse affirming approaches, and making sure that we honor all brains and minds, and know that some children are going to learn differently. And even now, being in adulthood, we know that we have different friends and colleagues that learn information differently and process things differently. And it's the same with children. Just oftentimes, like as adults, we kind of miss those things of like, hey, I have these weird, quirky things about myself of how I remember information or how I get things done.
Yes.
And we put a lot of demands on children, missing the fact that they are still children. There's room for error. Like, this is how they're going to learn. And so with looking at educational services, there are going to be certain things that schools can address. And then there are specific things that they can't address. And it's just because of the legal parameters. Now, I'm not saying that if you feel that your child is doing significantly bad in school and they have bad grades and they have shown no progress, those are things that you should definitely be pushing the agenda for. But for the state guidelines, if a child is performing, and performing means like, they have average grades and they're not failing. Right. Then they're not at risk to have those interventions. But then again, this is why we talk about early intervention and see how all of these skills lead into childhood and when they go into school. Because if these skills were missing at a young age,
they could have been identified.
And the gap just gets larger. So the early identification is definitely key in making sure that you know well ahead, because the likelihood of improving and closing the gap is very easy to do if it's identified early.
I love that. We're going to open up the phone lines. If you have any questions for, I want to say Dr. Henry. I just felt that. For Calondra, speech language pathologist, the CEO and owner of Broad Horizon Speech Therapy. And really quick, while we have maybe some people calling in just about questions with getting their children diagnosed or getting an IEP or just some of the concerns that they may have, tell us the difference between speech and language. I get this all the time when people, I say I'm a speech language pathologist, they're like, okay, what's that?
Isn't it the same thing?
Isn't it the same thing? And it's not.
So I always say this is the, Cliff Notes version
of how much
speech and language, because we can really dive into hours and hours of talking about the difference. But really, when looking at speech, we're talking about how we articulate and produce words and sounds. So speech can encompass stuttering. It can encompass voice disorders. It can encompass misarticulating your R's, and substituting a W sound. Those are the things that parents will hear.
Duh for the.
Right, exactly. Wabbit for rabbit. So those are the things that you will hear. Or if you meet someone with a lisp, that's what we consider to be a speech disorder. And now when we look at language encompasses two really major areas, and it's receptive language and expressive language, which means your receptive is how well you understand language that is given to you, and expressive is your output. How well do you communicate your ideas, thoughts, comments on things. And those are really the major differences. Now with language, there's so many different areas that we can get into. We've got semantics, which is vocabulary. We've got syntax, which is sentence structure. Like pragmatics, which is our social skills. So we can go on and on with all the different things of language. But those are the two major differences between speech and language.
I love that. And again, that brings that clarity, so that way when a person does receive a diagnosis, or they are looking to try to figure out what questions to ask those the teachers, they are able to know that, okay, it's just that it's not that they don't know the word, they're just not saying the word right.
Right, exactly.
Because I may say, library, but it's library. But if I say, what's a library? Oh, we get books from there. Okay, well then I know it's just, you just don't know how to say it correctly.
Exactly.
So that would take a little bit of the weight off too from the parents, just to know, I need to be a little bit more intentional when I communicate with them. Let them see my mouth, let them hear it. Hearing tests, again, very important. Make sure they know that they're not saying it right. But then whenever they are getting those assessments at school, they know, okay, this is definitely more on that speech line. So what are some things parents can do at home to kind of promote that early intervention for their kids?
Oh man,
there's so many things. This is the fun part.
Favorite. But the number one thing I always say is a language-rich environment. And what do I mean by that? Constantly talking to your child about everything that you're doing, the places you're going, the things you see. And even for typical developing children, we need over 800 exposures to a concept in order for us to retain it. So that just tells you, if you think about how many times in a day you might say the word open. You know, you're opening the refrigerator, you open the door to get in your car, you open the garage, like all the different times that you activate that word, and you think about how easy it comes to you, but why? Because you've been exposed to it so many times. And we talk a lot about reading, you know, reading books with your children, and the research is very prominent on that, showing that children who are read to a book, at least one book a night by the time they turn 5, and how much their vocabulary will grow in comparison to children who have not had books read to them. That is just a way to expose them to vocabulary. And so even if you're not reading every night, maybe you've got game night, you know, with the family. And even if you are using technology at home, because we know we're a technology-driven world, and it's something that we just can't keep away from our kids because that's what's in their world now.
Yes.
But as long as technology is a tool and not a toy.
That's it.
And so you can have engaging conversations with your children while they're engaging in different activities on the iPad and asking them about what they see and what's happening. Can you explain this to me? And let's play this game together.
Right.
I'll take a turn and then you take a turn. So there are all different ways, but definitely at home, that is how you build language. You need to talk about what you're doing.
And I love that. And I tell parents that, and just really us generally, just really including our kids in our activities, because, you know, we have working parents, you know, it's a long day, and it's like, I got to sit here at the table and go through. Well, really, you don't. It's bath time, dinner time, time to get dressed. Let them communicate those steps, tell them back to you, name those objects. What do we use it for? How do we... Really including and just being intentional with those routines, those turn-taking opportunities, and that's happening every day and night. So again, that over and over, that repetition, it's something that they're able to articulate back to you over time, and be able to carry that skill over into the school. And it's not something outside of what you're already doing every day. Just include them. You got to talk to your kids. You have to talk to your kids. You got to include them. Be engaged. They're watching. They're sponges. They're they're catching things.
We know it. How many times, like, if parents, when we've said things and you say it in front of your kids and you think that they don't know it, and
they listening.
Next thing you know,
they're gonna tell you secrets. They're gonna the innuendos, the little slip ups. That's why God allowed us to have children, to hold us accountable, to make sure that we, like me, know that they are ever present. Okay, they're not omnipresent, but they seem like it sometimes. So because of that, we have to make sure that we are mindful. So thank you, Calondra. We're going to go to one more song before we wrap up our show. Which one would you like to hear? You gave us some good ones today.
I did. Oh my goodness. Let's do Bless Me.
Bless Me. I love that one.
Yes.
Bless Me. And he has blessed us with these little jewels all over the world to be able to help empower them to be great communicators and set them up for success. So let's enjoy this song, Bless Me by Maverick City and Kirk Franklin. This is good. Yeah.
So if you want to open up your phone lines, make sure you share this phone number.
Oh, thank you. They probably like, I don't know what it is. See, learning curve. It's learning curve.
I'm like, I don't know.
I know. We're going to open up the phone lines. They're like, okay. So 7669285. So I open it up, and then 15 minutes. Do you have anything coming up? Any events coming up? Any projects coming up?
No. I think we're going to do a trunk or treat, but we haven't really decided.
Are you... You sound like you're overwhelmed with patients right now. I'm like,
no, we always keep open referrals.
Okay.
Always keep open
and
referrals.
so I'll just let them know, you know.
And they can go to our website
and all that.
all the information. They can request intake directly from there. So
I'll let you share that.
Yeah.
I'll let you share that. So I'm going to do all my little...
You know, it's always the therapist. That's the part.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I'm not going to do that too heavy because we know we all... I'm even trying to be like behind because are you? Nope. I had to tell somebody that the other day. I said I'm not working with children right now.
But I don't really treat, so I just mainly do evaluations, and I still do stuttering though because that's just my thing that I love. So
yeah, this was good. Yeah, that time is just 1:45. We're going to make sure we have all the information for all of you watching us. We know this is a hot topic, especially now. Maybe not for you, but for someone that you know, a family member, a co-worker, a neighbor. We want to make sure that we are setting our kids up for success, and there's so many resources available. We are without excuse, essentially. So, yeah, because I'm... Like, you know, we talked about earlier with our kids, when they're ready, because baby Mila, she keep telling me, ma'am, when I'm ready to talk, I'll let you know.
We'll revisit this.
I'm teasing. This is what we on.
Just have a seat.
Have a seat.
Right. It's
okay. No, mommy. No, mommy. I don't want it. No, I don't want to do it. Like, okay, girl. Okay. You tell me.
Independent stage. Oh, very independent. Maverick is in that too cool for school stage now.
Oh,
like,
gosh.
His hair has to be a certain way.
I can't
And the
take
outfit.
it. Oh, my gosh. I got so much, girl. So I advertise this. I'm going to have to come in and do these recordings. This is hard to, like, read and...
You do such a good job, though. Oh, my goodness. You make it, like, easy breezy.
Girl. I'm just so content heavy. It's so many things, but I just know with the automating everything. I record it, I can say push, and it can play as opposed to me. Okay, you know.
I know. It's always like it takes the time to do it, but once you do it, it's so beneficial because then, you know, you just refine over time.
Like content stuff and doing your content days and writing the stuff out so you can just post it because that's a whole nother job in and of itself.
I know. That's why I tell people, they're always like, oh, this is good.
And that was Bless Me by Maverick City and Kirk Franklin. Oh my goodness, my listening audience, give me grace. I didn't give you the phone number to call. If you would like to call in with any questions for Calondra Henry, CEO and founder of Broad Horizon Speech Therapy, you can give us a call at 904-766-9285. or 904-766-3401 if you have any questions for her today. But thank you so much. I know that this really empowered a lot of parents and teachers because sometimes teachers don't know what we do. You know, when I worked at the school, they're like, what you do? It's like you just walk around all day.
You just always
walking. I always see you. And that is the thing. We have, I used to leave there over like 10,000 steps.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're pulling those children out so they can have their services to tackle these types of needs that will help you, teachers, to be more successful with them in the classroom. Absolutely. You got my back on that?
Absolutely. Communication skills are foundational for doing educational tasks. And so whenever, you know, we come to the classroom and we're pulling those children out to work on those skills, it's so important. They need that. Because if they can't understand questions, they can't understand the things that you're asking them to do in the classroom because it's multi-step. It has vocabulary they don't understand. And I know just, first grade homework has humbled me.
Oh, you first grade?
Get this.
I have a 3-year-old.
Oh.
she had homework.
Oh.
Book report. I said, now, wait a minute now.
We had homework.
Yes.
What do you mean?
Yes. Calondra, how can the people stay in contact with you?
Yeah, so you can visit our website at www.broadhorizons with an S speech.com. You can learn all about the services that we offer. You can also find us on Instagram at Broad Horizons Speech. And those are the best ways to get in contact. And then, of course, we're on Facebook as well. If you want to look us up, you can also find us on Google and look up our Google page and see all the things that the people are saying.
And go ahead and brag on yourself. I mean, you guys have been awarded here lately, given some grants and just some recognition for what you're doing. And tell the people how long Broad Horizons has been around.
Yes, so Broad Horizons just celebrated its 5th year this year. So we've been going since 2019. Started as a solo entrepreneur, but now I have grown into an 8-woman team.
Come on.
And so I'm just so happy, and again, I'm just so blessed for all the things that God has done and really given me this purpose to fulfill. Because I always tell people I'm really, really big on the collaborative and communication and the compassionate.
Yes.
Those are all things that I knew had to be in this practice. So yeah, some of the accolades that we've received, we were voted top 3 in pediatric clinic for Bold City Best 2024. So we received that award this year. And then we also, out of 100,000 applicants nationwide, we won
Wow.
the Comcast Rise 2024 grant.
So listen, we're not talking about just anybody here in the audience in the studio today. Yeah, for the studio, we're talking about a vetted, 5 years, but still a lot of recognition for what you're doing in the community, and you know, to have an African American speech language pathologist in a field that we only comprise 4%. Is
unicorns.
We're unicorns.
Unicorns.
Really. So it's a blessing and an honor to be able to serve in this capacity. And thank you all for listening to the In the Know radio show every Saturday from 1 to 2 p.m. Hey, just a couple of things that you need to be aware of that's going on in this incredible city. You already know the Victory Station is celebrating their 35 anniversary during their stellar event taking place on Friday, November 15th at 7 p.m. Hey, make sure you get your tickets. If you don't have your tickets, you're behind the 8 ball. So make sure you get 2 tickets, one for you and one for a friend. It's going to be an incredible night with special guests, none other than Bishop Marvin L. Winans, and a whole night filled with incredible things taking place. Also, the In the Know radio show is sponsored by Tailor-Made Voices. That's the one you're hearing. Fearless, bold, and confident communicators is if in fact you need some information on how to become a better communicator, especially in the corporate sector, feel free to give us a call at 904-990-62. I like to do this little segment called A Little Chuckle. So this is just to kind of get to know our guests a little bit and just to kind of hear some interesting facts about them. So you ready?
No.
All right. If you could be any animal, what would it be?
Oh, wow. I don't think I've ever thought about that.
One of those good little thinking questions.
A cheetah, because they're so fast.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you could be an appliance in the kitchen, what would you be?
Probably my Keurig.
Okay. If you had to eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh, man. Well, you know, I am from Duval County, so I'm going to need my garlic crab.
Come on, somebody! It's so funny, you're the first one to say that. And a lot of the guests that I've had are from here, and they didn't say that. Now, are you saying just the crab or the crab boil?
The crab boil.
The meal.
Yeah.
Okay.
I need the whole meal. The fixings, the sides, the seasoning, all of it. Like, yeah.
Because just the crab itself is not going to be sustainable.
No.
Funniest thing that has happened during one of your therapy sessions?
Oh, my goodness.
I know you have a lot.
Oh, my goodness. Let's see. If I had to think of the funniest, would probably be, this is just hilarious. Like, even thinking about it, just thinking about it in the moment. there was a child that we were working on imitation skills with and getting to imitate different things. And so one of the grad students had said something about like, what in the world? And just all of a sudden one day what in the world? And it caught us all off. We were all caught off guard because we're like, what?
The one thing.
The one thing. And it was the intonation, it was the hand gestures, like everything. It was just like you just had to be there to see it. It was like, what in the world? It was,
which is so promising, because whenever we go through that process, we don't know when that breakthrough is going to happen. And when it does happen, it seems like it's always on the one thing that you really weren't working on.
Yeah,
all those other more important aspects and vocabulary wasn't taking place. But that,
but that's a social skill.
That's a social skill.
That's a social skill.
That is a social skill. Oh my goodness. Well, let's lead out with one final song. Let's hear Kingdom. Kingdom by Maverick City and Kirk Franklin. And I like this because as a kingdom people, we always need to kind of be on guard and be in our place to be able to assist those that are in need. And so this is one of those positions as clinicians that we have to make sure for children and adults. We'll talk about adults in a whole nother segment, but as a kingdom, we are making sure that all of those needs are being met. So we're going to have just a little bit of Kingdom by Maverick City. You know, I'm looking at the time. I thought it was 1:55. When I did all the closing stuff, it was 1:45. So I sped it up. Yeah. I was like, oh, Lord, we got like 10 more minutes.
This is always one I want to hear y'all sing in church.
I'm sure it's coming, child. They be coming down the pipe with songs and I'm like, oh, now we're going to do this one. Well, the song has been out for like 2 years.
Yeah.
Just okay.
Y'all be killing it, though. Y'all be killing it.
Yeah, this is the first time it kind of went a little bit faster. I could have asked another question. I think that was good. I think we hit the main kind of points.
Talking about the early intervention, why it's important, the difference between 504.
Yeah, this was good.
Had a lot of good talk.
And I love that hierarchy that we did with early steps, child find, screening, 504, IEP, home.
Yeah, and then also encouraging them here to talk to the teachers. Like, they're not mind readers.
Yeah. So you have 8 now? Wow. That is awesome.
Well,
I love that. That is awesome, girl. 5 years. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. I'm so excited about this Comcast Rise. Oh my goodness.
Now, have you guys found a new place yet? So I know you were looking for another.
We were, and then we're still looking for some other ones. It's just some kind of things happen with that one, so I'm not sure if we're gonna move on that one or not. It's just always like so much starts happening, and then I'm just like, you know,
I pivot a little bit.
Just praying on it, but definitely excited for this.
Ooh, if you've ever wondered what heaven will look like, just look at you and me. Oh, what a day that's gonna be. Gonna fill the room. Oh my goodness. Well, listen, one final thought for the In the Know radio show. We want to make sure that you are informed, that you are inspired, and that you are entertained. So if there are some things that you want to hear about or you would like to share on the In the Know radio show, be sure to give me a call at 904-990-6240, and we can see if you would be a good fit for the In the Know radio show that takes place every Saturday from 1 to 2 p.m. on the one and only Victory Station, FM 94.7 AM 1360. Have an incredible Saturday. Hey, it's not raining yet, so whatever it is that you want to do outside, do it now before that rain comes. Thank you for your support, and we'll be back here next Saturday. Gold star. Thank you, girl. Oh, that was good.
That was so good.
That was
This is a place to be. Turn your radio station to victory. But the Spirit of the Lord is liberty. Tune in to the station that set you free. We going up right now. Please tune in, don't touch that dial. We so blessed and you wanna know how? Not talking, we just living out loud.